Hey, dude, I don't really know how I feel about this. The FDA might finally ban artificial red dye from beverages. I thought that, and of course, Kathy is, so she challenges me, well, who did that study? Who who sponsored that study? It's like, okay. So, next we're going to talk about are there aliens and,
Yeah.
so, because she always challenges everything now. She doesn't trust anything anymore, probably. Um, I mean, outside of, God, me,
Yeah.
etc. But
Well, I
but
mean, you
so
should you should verify everything.
absolutely. But I thought that we took so deep a dive into the dyes
Mm-hmm.
and the studies that everybody points to.
Uh-huh.
And dude, I'm sorry, and I'm not fighting for dyes like red
Yeah.
dye number 5. I'm not fighting for it, but it just wasn't there.
Right.
It just wasn't there. So is the FDA bowing to, because, Bobby Kennedy is like championing this or,
Yeah. So
never.
here's the deal with this. And then my view on the who funded the study. Man, I just don't care. Like
Me
if there's
neither.
an issue, if there's an issue in the study where we're concerned that the person, the organization funding the study may have influenced the outcome, we'll be able to find it.
Yes. Yes,
Right. And
absolutely.
so we can reject the results of the study on the basis of its methods, the methodology, rather than the
Absolutely.
funding sources. I don't care who funded it. If the Beef
Right.
Cattlemen's Association funds something and it says that whatever red meat is turns out to have anti-cancer properties, if it's methodologically sound, then it's methodologically sound.
And the data
It,
you'll
it is what it
usually
is, and I don't care who funded it.
and the data usually will support it. Look how many things we've looked at where they said, "Oh, this is this and this is this," but then you go into their own studies and
Right.
the data doesn't say that.
Yeah.
We've seen that dozens of times.
Yeah, tons and tons. I have an example today.
Oh, yay! I love it.
So, yeah, couple things in the news today that we're going to talk about, and these were brought up by family members. So we were having dinner with my in-laws, and we were discussing all this stuff, RFK Jr. and stuff, and they had seen on the news that the FDA is close to banning red dyes, and so I had to explain that the headline in the news article is not what is the reality. So, if you'll remember correctly, Dwayne, when we looked at the 2011 FDA committee hearing
Yeah,
on the food dyes, right? So, one
yeah,
of the things that we learned from reading from that I learned from reading the meeting notes, the meeting minutes, and I read
right.
2 days worth of testimony on that thing.
Oh, it was like 300 or 400 pages. I know it was like crazy.
It was three or 400 pages per day.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
yeah,
So one of the things that we learned is that basically at any time point, someone can basically anyone can petition for the FDA to go back through and look at or do a reevaluation on the safety of any of these food colorings. Right.
right,
And so
right.
the headline of this is the FDA may finally ban artificial red dye. And so people are taking that as RFK Jr. has, am I saying that? Yes, RFK
Yeah,
Jr. is
yeah,
having this massive influence. Now everybody's panicking. That's not what's happening here.
right.
I think maybe people are feeling a little bit more. This stuff is coming a little bit more to the forefront, and we have politicians who are becoming a little more engaged in this practice. Blah 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 blah. So,
Right.
but what is happening here is so the at the Senate Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee meeting on Thursday, which was a few weeks ago, the FDA Deputy Commissioner for Human Food said it's been over a decade since the safety of the synthetic color additive Red 40 has been reevaluated, and that's true. So that was done in 2011.
Right.
And then with Red 3, we have a petition in front of us to revoke the authorization board. So Red 3 seems like it's backup for
Review.
authorization to be authorized to be used as a food additive. And
Mhm.
so what actually is happening here is that it's just they're reconvening, they're having another meeting. It's been over a decade, so they're going to come back and they're going to reevaluate the evidence. Perhaps there's new evidence that has come to light that may, change the minds. You're going to have a brand new committee, a brand new panel. So if it could be the case that new people are going to evaluate evidence in a little bit different way, they may pose the scientific questions a little bit differently, and that may be the thing. So that's what's actually happening here. Now, the issue people have with Red 3 is you'll see this on social medias a lot, is that Red 3 is banned from use in cosmetics, but it's still allowed as a food additive. People can't wrap their mind around that. And so the example I gave at the dinner table while we were sitting there is that, well, I can put hyaluronic acid on my face. I could buy lotion with hyaluronic acid, put it on my face. Actually, I think I can just get hyaluronic and put it on my face, and that's perfectly fine, right?
Yep.
I'll experience no toxic effect from that. However,
Right.
that doesn't mean we should go around putting hyaluronic acid in our food and start ingesting it,
Right. Right.
right? So
Right.
when it comes to toxicity of something or experiencing a toxic effect, not only, does the specific compound matter, but the dose also matters and the
Yes.
delivery matters. So here's a
Yes.
fun little fact for people. If you get bit by a rattlesnake, you will experience a toxic event. However, if you were to drink the same amount of rattlesnake venom, absolutely nothing will happen.
You're. Well, I'm mind blown.
Mind
Mind
blown.
blown.
So the delivery of the toxin, number one, has to be an appropriate dose, right? And then number
Yep.
two, the delivery of it has it. And then I also have another example that I posted on Twitter in response to somebody's cockamamie thing, right? If I take a tablespoon of vinegar and I mix it in a cup of water and I drink it, any toxic effect from that?
No.
No. Now, if I take that same tablespoon and I pour it directly into my eyeballs,
Burns.
yeah,
Yep.
toxic effect.
Damage.
Yeah, I
Yep.
will experience toxicity. Okay,
Wow.
so that's the deal with the artificial food coloring thing here. Is that they might finally ban it. That's a possibility. You're not going to argue against the possibility of something happening. However, I have been keeping up with the latest studies that have been coming out on food dyes and hyperactivity and all that stuff, and none of it is any different from anything that we looked at in that episode that we did. It's all basically the same methodology in looking at these things. You can't get rid of the effect of placebo. I don't think that there's any stronger amount of evidence there. It just doesn't seem to be there for me. Now, whatever happens in the committee hearing that's coming up, we'll find out. Possibility that they ban it. I highly doubt it, though.
Hmm.
Highly doubt it. So next up, man, making its rounds from Daily Mail. Doctors warn cooking oil used by millions may be fueling explosion of colon cancers in young people. Oh, what are we talking about? Seed oils, of course. Certain types of cooking oils may be fueling a surge of colon cancers in young Americans. A government-funded study suggests consuming large amounts of seed oils, which include sunflower, canola, corn, grapeseed, has long been linked to inflammation in the body. Now, the study that they are talking about, the study in question, is this one here, published in the BMJ. Integration of lipidomics with targeted single-cell and spatial transcriptomics defines an unresolved pro-inflammatory state in colon cancer. So, we're going to do the TLDR version on this.
Oh,
Going to try and make shorter episodes for everybody. So,
got it.
if this study suggests that consuming seed oils may be causing cancer, Dwayne, do you think that there should be dietary intake evaluations on the participants in the study?
Uh,
If this study is going to suggest that seed oils cause cancer, we would want to know that the participants consume seed oils.
yes, yes,
Yes. Okay. You,
absolutely.
you want to know how much dietary intake data is posted in this study?
None.
Exactly zero. There is
Wow.
no dietary evaluations. So, what this study actually looked at is they had 81 participants who had colon cancer, and then they matched it to 81 participants who did not have colon cancer. And what they did is they biopsied the tumors from the colon cancer. And what they found is that so normally when you have a wound, part of the healing process is you will experience an influx of certain fatty acids, enzymes, all these different things, which creates a pro-inflammatory state. Now, inflammation is part of the healing process.
Yes, yes, yes,
However, at
yes.
some point, there is a what they call it lipid switching. I forget where they had it in here. So basically, the type of fats that make it to the wound initially to create this pro-inflammatory state. And part of the pro-inflammatory state is to remove some of the bad things that happen when you get a wound, right?
Right.
That you have this influx of white blood cells and all these other things. That's part of the inflammation, and that comes in to remove a bunch of toxins and whatever else may happen from this
Right.
wound. And then you'll have a switching process where it's less inflammatory, and that healing process continues. And so what they found is that in colon cancer, when they biopsy things, that switching mechanism isn't happening. So it's just basically you have the pro-inflammatory fatty acids are just staying in there and they're not going away. Which is like it's cancer, right?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
So that's basically what this study found. And then people take it as to say that the fatty acids that they found was linoleic acid, arachidonic acid, and these things. But it's not specifically linoleic acid and arachidonic acid. It's like those fatty acid mediators or some other modifying word, right? And so people have taken that to say, well, these fatty acids exist in seed oils, therefore. And that's not the case. But even in the study, we get down here into the introduction. So the authors here have tried to suggest right here. So the Western diet, low in fiber, rich in omega-6 fatty acids, such as linoleic acid, a metabolic precursor of arachidonic acid, has been strongly linked to chronic inflammation and colorectal cancer development and progression, whereas the omega-3 rich diet has been proposed to have the opposite effect. And so they have references 7 through 9. So even in the study and in that Daily Mail article, they don't really quote the author, the main guy, but they
Right.
suggest that they interviewed him. And I guess even he is trying to say, like, we need to lower the amount of seed oils we're consuming. I don't know where he got that from, but let's look at their references. So 7 through 9. So we're going to go to number 8 here first. Number 8 only looks at omega-3, right? So
So there's no
nothing.
comparison.
There's no comparison for omega-6. Now let's go to reference 9. So reference 9 is omega-3 and omega-6 fatty intake acid, colorectal cancer risk in Swedish women's. And I want you to remember women's.
Okay.
So we're going to look at that. And what they did find, we'll have to go down to the data tables here. So they did find a table 3. Here we go. For linoleic acid, there was a an association between linoleic acid and arachidonic acid. Well, actually, not arachidonic acid. This is for rectum cancer, colorectum. So there is an association there, right? And then for
Mhm.
every 1 gram increment per day, your hazard ratio goes up by 0.13. Confidence intervals, basically null. I mean,
1.01 to
yeah,
1.26. So,
basically null. And the same thing for linoleic acid specifically, 1.02 to 1.27. That's not an extremely wide confidence interval, but that's close enough to make me really question it. So anyway, they did find an association there, all right, in the Swedish women's lifestyle
Yeah.
health and cohort. So let's go to reference number 7. Dietary intake of W6 and W3 fatty acid and risk of colorectal cancer in a prospective cohort of U.S. men and women. Now, we are more concerned with a prospective cohort in the U.S. than in Sweden. Why? Because we live in the U.S. And the
Right.
theory is that colorectal cancer, well, not the theory, but colorectal cancer is increasing in young men and women in the U.S. And so from this, right in the abstract, what we have total ratio of W6 to W3 was not associated with colorectal cancer. So this thing everybody talks about, oh, your omega-6 to omega-3 ratio, blah, blah, blah. No association with colorectal cancers. And then, contrary to our initial hypothesis, total W6 intake was inversely related to colorectal cancer in men. So it doesn't. So their own reference does not support the theory that seed oils are causing colorectal cancer in men, right?
Okay.
And then here we have in women, total W6 and W3 intake appear to be associated with higher and lower risk, respectively. So total omega-6 intake associated with higher risk, but associations were attenuated with adjustment for other risk factors. So whatever this association is for linoleic acid, for omega-6 and colorectal cancer in women, because remember this was in Swedish women,
Right.
whatever association exists is attenuated by adjustment for other risk factors. And I didn't go into this deeply to find out what those risk factors are, but it isn't the omega-6, right? Because
Right.
once you adjust for some other factor, the association goes away. So even in the reference section here in this study, which is suggesting that seed oils are causing colon cancer, we find evidence of the opposite.
Wow.
So that's that. So people, the media is not doing you any favors here. Read the whole article. Like, if you just read the red dye thing, I think that would clear up the confusion for a lot of people, because you would clearly understand within the first few sentences that it's just that there's another committee meeting coming, right? They're just saying, hey, it's been a while since we've evaluated things. Let's go ahead and redo this.
You know, I'm just for those of you who are listening. It's not that we're trying to go out and say, "Oh, you can't listen to this person, that person," or "Oh, because Bobby Kennedy said this must be right," or blah 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 blah. Just look at the data. And I hope everyone, if you don't understand what a confidence interval is, send us a message so we'll explain it to you. But if you look at the confidence intervals, and that it it just nulls the finding that they had.
Yeah.
Oh,
What's crazy about that too is everybody who's on social media who's touting this study as being like, well, here you go. We told you, we were telling you. So those confidence interviews we saw, it basically makes, like it is it above the null line? Yeah, technically it is. However, I mean, I would consider it to be null. But anyway, when it comes to any other thing, any other evidence that
right.
would suggest that their preferred way of eating has any association with anything else, and the confidence interval crosses the null line, they'll just accept it as there's no there's no association there. No, that confidence interval crosses the null line. There's no association. But for this one, perfectly fine, just taking it as it is.
Well, and so another line that in the studies that we look at when we see this line, adjusted for other factors.
Mm-hmm.
What are the other factors? Well, what? Explain that. But nobody reads that. Sometimes it makes me wonder, like when people get on when they want to champion a cause, it's like, Well, where did that start? Who out there decided that, that seed oils are bad? Who decided that? They were just looking for something to point us. Oh, it's because of that.
Actually, I think we can narrow it down to Gary Taubes.
Really?
Yep, I think Gary Taubes actually started the whole seed oils are bad thing.
Huh. That's ridiculous.
There's your answer. Yep. All right, man. Well, we're going to keep this short. So that's it. That's what's in the news. Headlines are not your friends, people. Do some research.
Yep.
Hope you got something from this. Hope some minds were blown. We'll catch you next time. Coach Lambie and Dwayne out.
See ya.